Hello, I'm Scott Bogey here with Richie Miranda ahead of, no, not ahead, after his fight against Maycon Mendonça, where he was able to get the unanimous decision victory. How did you feel that fight went?
First of all, thank you for having me, Scott. And yeah, no, that it was a great fight against a tough and experienced former world champion, a weight class above. Um, Definitely showed my striking, my wrestling, just all rounded, all well-rounded fighter all around. And it was a good, fun fight and a good win and a good win.
Exactly. And like you were saying, he is a very experienced fighter in that cage. He had, before facing you, 19 professional fights, whereas you only had nine going into that fight. Do you
Yeah.
feel like that experience showed in that fight that he was a tough guy to get out?
Yeah, definitely. And just as he was tall, one of the most more taller fighters I fought, and with good striking, good kickboxing, and yeah, I think his experience definitely helped him out. But my experience also showed out too. That I could take on these more well-rounded, experienced MMA fighters, and that I can compete at that high level. Hmm.
Exactly. And was there anything that he showed you in that fight that you weren't really planning on or wasn't expecting?
Um, Probably his takedown, that takedown towards the end of the round. Yeah, pretty much that. But everything else, I kind of had film studied and seen what he was gonna bring. He had good pullback counters. I knew he was gonna throw that rear kick a lot, and he what was I gonna say? And then he has a good takedown defense against the wall.
And that was your seventh, no, yeah, your seventh fight with LFA.
Uh-huh.
How is your contract situation with them?
I've been pretty much signed with LFA for since my fourth fight. I love LFA. They're everybody from there is awesome, and they give us a really nice platform to us fighters, across the United States and the world. But yeah, I still have another two fights with them. But if that short notice call
Yeah.
comes with I'm able to leave whenever. So yeah, right now that's what I'm hoping for. Somebody gets hurt and I can step in on short notice.
So do you have that written into your contract that if the UFC comes calling, you are able to leave, or is it just the relationship you have with LFA? You know they'll just allow you to take the opportunity.
No, no, yeah, definitely. They always want to push their fighters to go on to bigger shows, and yeah, definitely. Every fight, every contract that I fight with them, if I were to get a call from the UFC, I can be released whenever.
And there you are on a free fight winning streak.
Hmm.
Do you feel like they are close to getting that call up?
Yeah. So I've been on the UFC radar for probably since my sixth fight. I tried out for the Ultimate Fighter when it was going to be Conor and Chandler. Um, Didn't get that one, and then I got called up on a short notice before my last fight. I think it was in February against I forget his name, but they ended up choosing somebody else. So I know that call is gonna come, especially after this last win and this performance. So just staying ready, and hoping that call comes. Yep.
And obviously, you're not just going to focus on the UFC. You have got a contract with LFA.
Hmm.
When do you want to get back into the cage? I know they do have two shows in September. We might just be too close. Are you looking to get into the October, one of the October cards?
Yeah, we'll see what happens, yeah, I mean if they offer a title fight, we'll see what's up. But yeah, I mean my main hope is to hopefully get another fight for sure within the end of the year. So yeah, I like to stay active. Usually I fight every 3 fights a year. Last year I was only able to get two, but looking to get one more this year.
And do you feel like you're now ready to face the champ, Richie Lewis?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Now, how would you take the rematch against Keegan Genrich? I know he is the only defeat on your
Uh-huh.
current record. How much do you want to get that revenge?
Honestly, I'm kind of over that fight. yeah, it kind of stung, especially how close it was, and
Yeah.
um, yeah, it sucked, and that's why I took, I think, a little bit of a break for my fight that I came back after with Darren Chapman. But honestly, don't really catches my interest. But yeah, I mean, if we meet up in a bigger show, then yeah, why not?
And like you said, you were trying out for the Ultimate Fighter before. Now, did you just were just told no, or was there any truth in the thing that people were accepted, but then Connor didn't want them, so they just dropped them and replaced them with
No,
Connor's guys?
no, yeah. So I did like the whole interview process, but just when it came to picking the cast, I didn't get chosen. But that's because there was certain prospects and then veterans, from what I was told. But it was cool to do the whole process, the interviews, and yeah. I mean, if that were to present itself again, I'd be interested in doing that too.
And obviously, it must be good getting that call, even though you weren't successful. You do know UFC is watching you, and you are
Yeah.
close to that line.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. No, that's something I've been working towards since I started training MMA after transitioning from wrestling to MMA as an amateur. And I know we're close to checking that goal off the list. And, it just begins from there. So yeah, I'm excited to keep going on this journey, and yes, be in the UFC soon.
And do you feel like being with LFA, with their exposure on the UFC Fight Pass, do you feel like that helps you get in there a bit quicker because you do have that recognition?
Yeah, definitely. So I fought for Cage Warriors as well.
Yeah.
So pretty much I got signed to LFA after that fight, and yeah, LFA does a great job of exposing their athletes, and a bunch of LFA fighters have moved on to the UFC. So I feel like it's like a feeder program to the UFC, and there's no easy fights in LFA. So they make sure to test us before we move on to the bigger promotions.
And do you feel like LFA are one of those promotions that they're not just going to give you an easy fight? They are going to make sure that the fight you do get it is against an opponent with a good record. It'll be a
hmm
tough fight. They're not just going to get someone that has a 0-50 record and just throw you in.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, like I said, Mark Berry does a great job of um of making good matchups and fighting styles, that's gonna bring out the best of both fighters and yeah, so I believe they do a really good job of exposure, production and the matchups they style up and building champions and building stars too.
And you are with Bloodline Combat, which obviously does have UFC fighters like Cub Swanson as a part of them. How has that been so far?
It's been great, you know. It's was a new transition that I made over after my last fight, but so far it's been great. I have great training partners. Cub, like you mentioned, I got Rafa, I got
Yeah.
Dan Silva, Dan Argueta, then my other homie too, Doug and Jacob Rosales. So there's a special team and everybody's like minded, and we're just trying to push each other and get better every day and accomplish our goals. So yeah, it's definitely been a smooth transition, and I'm really happy and honored to be a Bloodline.
And do you feel like they've been able to elevate your game to the next level, having that just the competition of the strength of the opponents they do have with them, and as well being able to find new stuff about your game that you may not have discovered before at your previous gym?
Yeah, definitely. So like I've said before, a lot of us have um their own specialty that we bring to the table. So everybody's open-minded, and it's an open-minded team where if I have a question or I want to present something, it's everybody listens, and we dissect it and we work it into our practices. But yeah, definitely have learned a lot from having my training partners and Cub as well, of how it is to train at the higher level. And yeah, so it was cool. I got to be part of Cubs camp for Andre Philly, so I was able to see how he did his camp, So
Yeah.
mhm.
And what was the main differences from what Cub did in his camp to what you were doing beforehand?
I think a big one was overtraining, and listening to your body. Um, like sometimes it's okay to pull back a little bit and you know, take 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 one workout out so you can be fresh for the harder workouts, the one like your sparring, you want to show good sparring, so let's maybe pull back on one workout on Tuesday and be fresh for Friday. So overtraining was a big one.
And what does the normal week for you look like? What do you like? How is your training regime?
Yeah, so pretty much Monday through Friday, sometimes on Saturday, and then recovery day on Sunday. But pretty much, every day consists of MMA practice, boxing twice a week, strength and conditioning twice a week, and jujitsu 2 to 3 times a week, and then also wrestling in there, wrestling practice. So shout out to Santa Ana College, for always that come in and wrestle with them and yeah, hitting my runs and Sunday I like to do cold plunge and sauna. So that's part of my recovery. So that's pretty much what a week looks like.
And what was it that got you into the game?
So pretty much wrestling. I started wrestling. I always watched boxing as a little kid, and then MMA once I got into wrestling, and then yeah, once I finished college at UNK at University of Nebraska Kearney, I decided to still keep competing, and I had my trained for about 4 months, and then had my first amateur fight.
And what was it about your amateur career what that you've made you thought, let's go pro now? Like what was it that you knew you were ready for that next level?
Yeah, funny story. So I thought I could go pro right at 3-0, but definitely I ended up moving from Nebraska back to my hometown and here in Santa Ana, California, and then I pretty much took like a short notice fight, and then I wasn't running as much, so I got tired in that fight, and even though it was another split decision, close fight, could have gone either way. I lost, and then from there, started working more on my striking, strength and conditioning, just training and working like a professional, and then yeah, pretty much one got a finish, and then from there went on to win an amateur belt, and then pretty much January of 2020 I had my last amateur fight, and my coach at the time, Ben Jones, was he said I was ready to go pro.
And obviously, as an amateur, you aren't able to do the knees and the elbows, but were you still practicing them, preparing yourself for that pro game?
Yeah, no. So when I started in Nebraska, Nebraska has a different rule set. So pretty much as an amateur, you can throw elbows and knees to the head. So yeah, I was already cautious of that. But yeah, in California it's not allowed. But yeah, we still train elbows, train all our weapons,
And obviously, if you get that call to the UFC, is there anyone you're wanting to fight first, or are you happy to just fight anyone the UFC want to give you?
Yeah, no, anybody, I'm keeping up with the UFC events, so I take a close look at each lightweight bout that's on the card. So yeah, anybody I'm ready, I'll be doing my homework and hopefully that call comes.
Exactly. Thank you for coming on. I'll get you have the final word. Anyone you're wanting to shout out?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Shout out to Twin J Transportation and also shout out to Bloodline Combat Sports, UFC Gym Costa Mesa, and all my training partners at Bloodline and all my coaches. So,
Well, thank you for coming on. Hope you get another fight soon, and we'll be able to speak ahead of that.
okay, cool. Thank you so much, Scott.